Service back to pass, quick throw, complete,
Yes.
Touchdown Oilers.
A great route that time, and Jason Moore with a nice catch. And
It's Coach Keys Weekly on 88.3 WLFC.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy. Chewy across the 40.
Join Coach Keys and the Oilers on-air team as they take a look back at the week that was, discuss what's happening around the conference, and preview the week ahead.
Service throws, and caught late. Jason Moore went off of the front receiver's hands and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
Now, let's join football head coach Rob Keys and the voice of Oiler football, Tim Montgomery.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC. Tim Montgomery and the head coach of the Oilers, Rob Keys. And coming up on a homecoming week, and we'll have plenty to talk about with homecoming week and the Hillsdale Chargers coming into town later on. But first, Coach, as we do, let's reflect back. 37-21 loss. I think in some ways that's not a very fair score. That was a game that was closer most of the way, and you guys certainly had some opportunities down the stretch that just kind of slipped away.
Yeah, the big thing with the game, we didn't start off very well. I know defensively we did. We got the 3 and out. We got the ball. We drove down the field. And then it ended up with no points. So the momentum swing, it really swung in Wayne State's favor. And they took advantage of it. And before you know it, we're down 14-0. And it's a tough place to be against really good football teams. And our guys came back. And if you look at it, you get going into the fourth quarter, it's a pretty even game. And it's just a matter of a couple plays in the fourth quarter we got to come through. And defensively, I thought in the first half they did a tremendous job stopping the run. I mean, we stopped their base plays. We stopped Romello Brown, who no one has stopped him yet. And we held him to 60 yards rushing in the first half. And all in all, felt pretty good about things. In the second half, their offensive line kind of took control. And they did a really good job scheming us. They did a few things that we hadn't seen. And before you know it, after making the adjustments, they put up a couple big runs. It's a shame at times, though, because, the long touchdown run, the big 86-yard run, and you can't let the officials determine the game, but, 2 point of attack holds, and you're not going to get off, and they scored. And it does. It really, really makes it difficult because, if you're doing your job and you're doing it well, you need to be able to play within the rules and make the play.
Well, a lot of things there, Coach, and let's start with that first drive. You mentioned you got the 3 and out defensively, exactly what the doctor ordered. Offensively, you move the ball down the field, and then the field goal attempt, and unfortunately, it doesn't go through for Tyler. And I mean, it's becoming a bit of a trend, and kicking is kind of one of those weird anomalies. It's kind of like quarterback, where a lot of it's you, and it either works or it doesn't work. And unfortunately, here recently, it's not working for Tyler.
No, it isn't, and it's a mental block right now. The kick was very, very low. It barely went over the line of scrimmage, and it was blocked. But I won't lie. I told Tyler this. I said, I'm not real confident about kicking field goals. And it's tough for me to send you guys out there because you're struggling, and the only way you're going to, get out of the struggles is to make a kick. And I was hoping at that point, we're on a 6 or 7 yard line, and you're looking at a field goal that is relatively an extended extra point. And I thought it was a prime chance to get him some confidence and make that kick. And unfortunately, it was not hit correctly. And Wayne State got big momentum after that blocked field goal. And we need to go back to the drawing board. He needs to, it is. I hate to say, it's a team game, 11 guys do one thing, but it is. It's such an individual position where I have to do my job. We've looked hard at the snaps and the holds, and they've been pretty good. And it's not the physical with Tyler. We all saw he's more capable of doing that job very, very well. He needs to go out there and relax, and have fun and make the kicks. And he can't let the outside affect the inside. He needs to settle himself and not look at it. It's a pressure situation. It's just doing his job.
You talked about coming out in the second half, and they did some scheming, and sometimes you tip your hat to the other coaching staff because they made a couple of slight adjustments. You guys did a great job on Romello Brown and really the run game in total, as you talked about. But that jet sweep and then a couple little wrinkles off that jet sweep, it took pretty much the whole third quarter to kind of figure out.
Yeah, it did. And the worst part about it, we hadn't seen much of it on tape. They really haven't run it. They've inserted it maybe once or twice a game. They went primarily to it, and they were doing a good job after the adjustments. They hit the outside a couple times, so we refit it and kind of drew up a different scheme in the secondary, and then they started cutting it back behind the defensive tackle, and they hit some big plays on us. So and number 4 and 25 and Stinson and Nicholas and Brown, those kids are talented players, and you give those guys the ball, eventually they're going to pop, and unfortunately they got a couple big runs on us.
Now, with that said, you guys had some great moments here. I mean, you found yourselves down early 14-0. You come back with 14 straight. Along the way to that, you see a couple of records, and unfortunately, as we've always talked about, you're ultimately graded by wins and losses, but Reese Jervis becomes the all-time leading passer in University of Findlay history. That's impressive and certainly needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah, it does. I mean, he's had a great, somewhat small career, because he hasn't played a ton of games. You look at it, he's played 17 games here as a starter at the university, and he's done a lot of really good things for us. And without him, we're not as good. And I know that he threw a pick at the end, and that was a great play by that kid. And at that point, you're down 2 scores, and I can live with those. Those are plays you got to try to make. And I thought he did a much better job of going through his decision-making process. He didn't have the big takeaways early on in the game. And he did a good job with the run-pass options, whether it was the give or whether it was the throw to the outside on the perimeter. So, it's good to have him. At the same time, too, he's got a lot of ball left in his career, and he needs to continue to work hard and understand. And I tell him all the time, your number one job is to win games.
Well, he's
not happy about that.
Yeah, and the other half of that, of course, is the guys catching the ball, and a couple guys had pretty good days as well. Jason Moore, 3 touchdown catches. Dylan Blunk, 15 catches on the day, which I think ties a university record. I think Lloyd Henry also hit that a couple years ago as well. And certainly you're not trying to, knock out the loss, so to speak, but I think the steps forward that this team's making, as you and I talked about before we came on air, those need to be acknowledged as well as part of this process, because you need to acknowledge those to get over that hump that you guys are trying to get over.
There's no doubt. I mean, I asked the coaches in the staff meeting on Sunday. We talked about it. Number one, each position coach, is it an effort issue? And unequivocally, every coach said there's no effort issue. And that was good to hear. And then I asked them, is it a discipline issue where guys don't care and guys don't play? No, it's not, Coach. Right now, it boils down to execution. But execution, it's easy to execute against lesser opponents. When you're playing against good players and good teams, your execution, it's difficult to execute all the time. And our guys need to understand that the quality of our play needs to be more consistent throughout. And you got to give credit to the other teams. I mean, there's some good football teams we're playing against. It doesn't change things, but the good thing you mentioned, Jason Moore, that's the first time that we've seen Jason Moore catch the ball and do something with yards after the catch. That's 2 big plays where he caught a drag and went for 40 or 50, and he caught a streak up the sidelines and broke a couple tackles, and we saw his strength and his speed, which we had not seen here. He's caught a lot of balls on the outside, and he's finished in the end zone or finished out of bounds or tackled. We've yet to really see him with the yards after catch, and that really is going to bode well for us, because now it gives him another dimension to his game, and he's still a young kid. I mean, here he is. This is a sophomore, only in his 17th game. So, the sky's the limit for Jason. He's so talented, and he works so hard. Who knows what this kid's going to be moving into his, late in his junior year and into his senior year, how good he can get. And with Reese's record, you feel bad about it, because it was a situation. I remember when Monterey Williams broke the all-time leading rushing record, which stood for a long time, and it was much celebrated after a big win.
Yep.
I will say that record was pretty much untalked about and unnoticed, and we just went on about it ways because no one wanted to hear that at that point. Now, as a team later on, we did recognize his record and his accomplishments, but this team is focused on winning. And even though we haven't done that very much this year, there's no lie. We're 2-4, and there's a lot of football left. Our guys are still focused on the task at hand, and that's getting ready to win every Saturday.
And to do that, and one of the things we're going to have to see improve, Coach, obviously, as we talked about in the postgame, that running game. Still having some trouble getting that running game consistently on track. As we've talked about, you see flashes, but the consistency just hasn't been there yet.
Yeah, and you look at the film, and you got to kind of look at it both ways. The run game against Lake Erie looked phenomenal. But no offense to Lake Erie, defensively they're not very good. The run game against Ashland, against Ferris State, against Wayne State, who are top 3 run defenses, it didn't look as good. So you got to kind of look at it and say, hey, maybe it's partially our talent and our experience matching up against better talent and better experience. And our guys got to continue to grow. We do have a couple young offensive linemen who, they find it easy in certain cases, but, when you start to play against some guys, it's a little more difficult to run the rock. I think Chauncey did a really good job when he did carry the ball. I was hoping to get, 20 to 25 carries out of Chauncey on Saturday. He got 18 for 84, but he had the big pass completion. So, 19 touches is not bad. I'd like to have him upwards near 25 because he does have the ability to make guys miss and hit the home run. But, the run game's going to have to be manufactured by maybe spreading it out a little bit and mixing in a little more pass to set up the run. I know that it's kind of the backwards thinking because we really like to run the ball first because, if you run the ball, you control the play-action pass game and you also control the clock.
All right, well, let's go ahead and put that one to bed. Big matchup coming up this week. Hillsdale College coming in for a homecoming. We'll talk about when we return on Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC.
Service back to pass, quick throw, touchdown Oilers!
Saturday afternoon, it's homecoming. Oilers welcome in the Chargers from Hillsdale College.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy.
Tim Montgomery will have all the action from Donnell Stadium. Pre-game at 1:45, kickoff at 2 o'clock.
Service throws, caught late, and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
This is your home for Oiler football, 88.3 WLFC.
Welcome back again to Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC. Tim Montgomery, the head coach of the Oilers, Rob Keys. And, Coach, it's a homecoming week. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about the Hillsdale Chargers here a little bit. But homecoming always has special meaning. You and I have talked about this several times. You've worked really hard to create that sense of community and family, connecting the present to the past with Oiler football. And I think homecoming is one of those opportunities, especially where you really get to kind of accentuate that. Yeah,
it is. And we want all the alums to come back and see what how this program is moving forward and watch our team. And it really helps our team. When alums come by, it's funny. Guys want to know, who was that? Who was that coach you were talking to? And most of the alums, 95% of the time when an alum comes on campus, if it's near practice time, I always invite them, hey, you want to talk to the team? And they always get a chance to talk to the team and tell them what it means because our players know that, they don't play for just the guys wearing the orange and black in 2016. They play for every team that's ever worn orange and black all the way back. And that includes, before the Coach Strom era and all the way back to Bob Morgan, et cetera. Everybody that's ever played here, on Saturdays, we're playing for them. And we want to make them proud. And our kids, they do a heck of a job. I will say that to the alums. I mean, their alums should be proud of this program and this team because the guys work very hard. They're class acts on and off the field. They're doing a great job in school. They're doing a great job in the community. But, our guys, same thing too. It goes back to alumni want to win. Well, this team does too. And, we're hoping that they're back. And it is. It's always good to see. And I talked to quite a few of them. I talked to Kevin Cassidy the other day, who was here and played on those national championship teams and won. It's funny. The guy that coached high school football with my dad, Mickey Davis, played here in the early 60s. Was at my back door at the office coming off practice game, after practice on Friday against Wayne State. Just stopped in town, had one of his granddaughter's friends goes to school here. So, you see guys like that. And, I see Gene Fernandez, in town. And you see Denny Mag and so many alums that we foster a relationship with, and they do a lot for our program. I can't thank the alumni enough for how much they do, financially and also any other support just by word of mouth.
That's one of the reasons I like talking about the Oiler records, too, because I think it helps tie the present to the past. Because when you bring up Bo Hurley, that's a lot of positive memories for a lot of people going out to Donnell Stadium on a Saturday. Or where you talk about some of these other guys starting to eclipse other guys from the past. Even when you talk about Monterey, that automatically takes you back to Nelson. And it brings that sense of family and community, and then it's all still part of it. Because those guys, when those records get broke, they like it because it means the program is moving forward.
It is. And it is. It's definitely a different era, of football. Moving into Division II from the NAIA days, and then being back before that. But all in all, everybody that's ever played here, has had an impact or a partial of that building block that's made Findlay what it is today. And we hope to just continue to add with it. But, I want those guys, like I said, it's awesome when they stop by. And we've had the Alumni Network dinner when the alums come back and talk to our players about what they're going to do after football. And we've created a lot of great relationships that have formed internships and jobs for our players. And our reverse raffle is a great, thing in the spring. And you see hundreds of alums back then. A lot of them in the 2000 era, more in the Division II era, those guys are coming back. But you get other guys that come in. And it also, you have those events, and it's amazing. You bridge some of the gaps between maybe the 1960s and 70s to the 2000s, and guys get to know each other, and it's funny, they see each other every year and they become friends too. So it is. Homecoming is an awesome time for college football, and I know there's no better way than finishing homecoming day with a big win, and that's what we're shooting for.
Well, let's talk about who your opponent is. Let's talk about the Hillsdale Chargers coming in. Of course, you opened up the season last year against Hillsdale. Good, strong game, but a good presence by you guys at their place to open up the season with a win last year.
Yeah, game one, you never know what you're going to get. Look at game one this year, we just pretty much handled Saginaw Valley like it was nothing, and they've taken off to a 4-2 record. So, Hillsdale, same thing. We played them first game, and there's a lot of things going into that one. Now we're in the meat of the season. Hillsdale's a much improved team from a year ago. They're dead set on the quarterback, Chance Stewart, who's a transfer, who was a 4-star recruit. So you're looking at a kid that had multiple offers. He had big-time offers and chose Western Michigan and has transferred down. So you're looking at one of the best high school quarterbacks in the country, starting for the Hillsdale Chargers. And the kid is very big. He's a 6'5", 6'6", 250-pound kid. And it starts with him on offense because he's got a big arm. He's got great decision-making skills, and you can see that he moves that offense very, very well.
Well, sometimes you try to look at least from my standpoint, so you look for common opponents, just the one, and that's the Wayne State Warriors. They fell 41-30. And when you look at that game log, that game kind of ran similar to your guys' game.
It did. I mean, there's no doubt that Hillsdale is a very capable football team, and you look at us on paper, we're probably somewhere about the same, but again, it's not played on paper, and we have to be better than them. I like the running back, the Reverman kid, who was a true freshman last year and only had maybe 2 or 3 carries against us, but had a big reception at the end of the game. He is now a 1,000-yard rusher, was second-team All-GLIAC, freshman of the year last year. So they have the quarterback and they got the running back, and those are 2 big pieces. The offensive line, they return a couple guys. Jake Bull is one for sure. And their receivers, there was a true freshman they have from Texas who has done a really good job on the outside, making some big catches for them. So, all in all, they're a very good football team. They play very hard. They're very disciplined. But at the same time, everybody wants to describe Hillsdale as that. But they're very talented. I mean, they have one of the best offensive linemen playing in the National Football League from Hillsdale. You got a wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. So Hillsdale's not just your, hey, we're tough, disciplined football team. They're very talented too.
They certainly are, and you mentioned a couple of the names, and I wanted to go into some more detail on a couple of those. You mentioned the quarterback. You mentioned him. They're kind of set on him, the transfer, and talking about a young man who completes over 62% of his passes, and you talked about Reese going through his progressions. It seems to be what this young man does a very good job of as well.
Yeah, but you look at it, he has 300 yards passing a game, 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And that's a big stat right there. He's not giving the ball up. And if you don't give the ball up, you get a chance to win. And like I said, his leading receiver right now is Trey Brock, who was a true freshman last year, who has really, really stepped up, made a lot of good plays. Reminds me of a Jason Moore, 6'3", 200 pounds, 210 pounds. Has great playmaking ability. He high points the ball very well on the outside. But again, they have a couple really good skill guys. They got a good offensive line. They mix in their tight ends. We recruited both of those guys, so I know the tight ends. And offensively, they really cause problems because they do a great job, with the misdirection passing game. And it's very tough defense, tough offense to defend.
You mentioned Reverman as well, but I feel like this is a slightly different Hillsdale Charger team than you're used to. Hillsdale in the past, we were talking about Glendenning back in the day. They just hammer you, and they just keep on pounding you, and then popping a little pass. They're a little more diversified, it feels like now.
They're a lot more. They give you multiple formations. They're going to give you more formations than any team we face. Motions, shifts, a lot of boots and waggles, so you're getting guys going one way and then creating some overloads in the zones the other way. And then they'll take some shots downfield because they do have, like I said, the Brock kid is very good on the outside catching the ball down the field. He's made some really big plays for him.
You mentioned we talk about changing up, and I think that's always impressive when coaching staffs can kind of go out of what they're used to. I was looking at their coaching staff, and everybody, with the exception of the two youngest coaches, have been in this program for double-digit years, and then those guys even get a pass because they're the head coach's kids, and they played for it. These guys know what they're doing, and yet they still find it okay to kind of alter what has been successful in the past and make the adjustment.
Yeah, good coaches, play to their players' strengths, and they know where to put them and how to use them and how to utilize their talents to produce points on offense and stop people on defense. But Coach Otterbein is one of the better coaches in this country. He's done a tremendous job up at Ferris, and now he's here back at his alma mater at Hillsdale, and he produces very good football teams year in and year out. Not too long ago, this team was a national power in the playoff team and a conference title when they had Joe Glendenning at running back, who was one of the better players in the league. But you look at all those guys, Coach Blanchard and has been there, and I've known Craig for a long time, recruiting him, and then his sons. It's about as a family affair as you can get. Those guys are very tight, and they know what to expect from each other, and the players know what to expect from the staff, and there's a lot of continuity. And continuity, it breeds production, and it is. They're a tough football team to face, and they're having a pretty good year so far. They're probably not satisfied with some of the losses that they've had, but they're a very capable football team of beating anybody on any given day.
Well, let's go through the progressions, Coach Keys. Let's start off with special teams. What's it going to take from special teams to be successful this week?
I think we have done a really good job, with the exception of putting the ball through the uprights. And field goals. The rest of the kicking units have been solid, but we haven't made the big play. We had the block punt against Ashland to kind of set momentum forward. We had a big punt return with Troy Robinson, which set us in good field position this week. I'd really like to see the special team score a touchdown. I'd like to see one of the kickoff return, big break, a punt return for a touchdown, or a block punt or something to give us a score off the special teams units.
Then we transition into the defense.
Defensively, again, it's being disciplined. They're going to give us a lot of formations, and we got to be able to line up correctly and make sure all the gaps are fit. But we got to make sure our eyes in the right spot, especially in the secondary. Wayne State hurt us a lot of the boots and play action passes. We had some guys running wide open, and we have to make those corrections, especially at the safety spot, and not give them those easy plays based off of mental mistakes.
All right, and then finish things up with the offense.
Score touchdowns. In the first quarter especially, we will look back, and this year in the first quarter, I think we've scored 9 points against Ashland, against Ferris, against Wayne State. Some of the better opponents. We took Lake Erie out of there. Those 3 teams, we've scored 9 points. We need to score some touchdowns to start the game, and I think it'll build momentum with the offense and confidence with them, but I think it also will help the defense side of the ball and say, we're going to play for a lead. Play with the lead, because we haven't done that in a while. We have not played with the lead since the Saginaw Valley game.
All right, Coach. Well, as always, appreciate your time. We got kickoff at 2 o'clock, special homecoming time. We'll have our pregame about 1:45. Hope you make plans to join us. Let's get another win, Coach.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, that's going to wrap things up. Hope you make plans to join us on Saturday. If you can't be out at the stadium for Coach Keys, I'm Tim Montgomery. See you next time for Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC.
Service back to pass, quick throw, complete,
Yes.
Touchdown Oilers.
A great route that time, and Jason Moore with a nice catch. And
Thank you for listening to Coach Keys Weekly.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy. Chewy across the 40.
Tune in every Tuesday night during the season for your connection to Coach Keys and Oiler football.
Service throws, and caught late. Went off of the front receiver's hands and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
This is your home for Oiler football. 88.3 WLFC.